Good evening, everybody. I want to call the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. Thank you. Thank you for all our guests coming tonight. Let's do roll call.
Doug Bruce.
Here.
Sam DeSoller.
Here.
Susan Dyer.
Here.
We started a minute early.
Jeff Golden.
Here.
Deb Hutton. Lee Sandweiss.
Here.
John Saunders.
Here.
Chris Sturbaum.
Here.
Duncan Campbell. Ernesto Castaneda. Derek Ritchie. Jenny Southern.
Okay, let's do, I need approval for the minutes from January 23rd.
So moved.
Second. Sam did.
Doug Bruce.
Abstain?
Sam DeSoller.
Yes.
Susan Dyer.
Abstain.
Jeff Golden.
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss.
Yes.
John Saunders.
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0-2.
Great. We're going to have a little change on our agenda this evening. We're going to go down to old business, and we're going to start with the courtesy review of the Kiln Rehab Project. And I think that we have Mr. Brown here to give us
Well, I appreciate you letting the mayor
Mr. I'm sorry,
step in for a
the
second, if you
mayor.
don't mind.
Absolutely.
I haven't been to this meeting, as far as I know, before, so the first thing I want to say is thank all of you for your service to the community. Some of you are mayoral appointments, and all of you help do great things for the city. I really appreciate your highly paid service on this board, I know, so, but it's really important to the community. I want to thank you. And I just want to make a few comments introducing this topic, the courtesy review. Thank Connor, too, for your help on this. 25 years ago, the city, 25 years ago, as a part of a partnership, private and public, launched a plan to purchase the long-neglected campus of this great furniture company that operated in our city with the purpose of repurposing the collection of buildings that were part of our past and rejuvenating an area that had been underutilized. The first step of that was the rehabilitation of this building, plant number 1, in the 1990s that restored the historic Showers Brothers factory building, meeting rigorous federal standards, is now a gold LEED certified building that we sit in. That was a $2.5 million purchase price 25 years ago. Wow. That's pretty good. There was another $28 million to complete the renovation of the 200,000 square foot facility, part of which is paid by the city and others, that became known as the Miracle on Morton Street, which is exciting. We once had grain towers here, I will remind people, that have been removed. And then a few years after that, 1995, Hirons and Company purchased the furniture showroom, known as the Sample Building, with a $3 million investment, and also renovated it for use of their offices now with Solution Tree. September of 2011, so not quite 10 years ago, the city purchased 12 acres for the Trades District, and by 2 years ago, or late 2018, the city had facilitated the rehabilitation of the Dimension Mill and the investment in all that infrastructure around it to a tune of about $15 million to restore and activate that part of the campus and that major new physical infrastructure. As you know, the award-winning Mill project converted a very unused and derelict building into a startup incubator, beautiful space. I'm sure you've all been in it. It's actually the Indiana's fastest growing co-work space in history. It's been very successful and a keystone to our tech park. With the adaptive reuse of the kiln and what we believe is imminent restoration and reuse of the administration building on Morton, we have an opportunity to once again validate the progressive idea that historic preservation can and should contribute to the continuity and the economic well-being of our community. Now, 2 years ago, some of you may remember, the city approached this Historic Preservation Commission to evaluate the possibility of removing the kiln. because while we at that time expected and today expect the reuse of the administration building, the admin building, based on market feedback, we believe the kiln at that time likely would not find an investor for reuse. We thought, yes, admin, obviously we directly invested in the mill, but we were really thinking that the kiln was likely not going to be able to be reused from an investor. But today, we are very pleased and excited to have an opportunity that allows us not just to save the building, but to refit it and repurpose it, thereby cementing that building's future and reactivating it as a really valuable contributor to the Bloomington economic vitality. Converting the kiln into commercial space will be synergistic with the mill because the proximity of the kiln makes it an ideal space for businesses in the mill to grow into as they expand. You'll hear more about that. We have, as you probably know, the mill is full. There are waiting lists. We want the chance for companies to move out into a kind of more permanent space, if you will. Also, the kiln creates a great opportunity for retail and restaurant spaces, complementing the energy of the existing brewery on the other side of 11th Street. The utilization of this building as commercial space makes a lot of sense for the city and the area. It also represents the first of what we anticipate will be many private, that is, non-municipal investments in the Trades District. But the adaptive reuse of the kiln into commercial space poses different and maybe more difficult challenges than those earlier projects. This building was not constructed to house people, but to dry lumber. It does not have any windows or any facilities to accommodate a workforce, and therefore, compared to previous Shower campus rehabilitation projects, the adaptive reuse of the kiln will require more substantial changes to the building itself because it was not designed with the light and space necessary for human activity. And I think, importantly to note, the optimal outcome here is for the kiln to be used, not to sit vacant or to be demolished, which is, frankly, I will tell you personally, I kind of thought that was where we were headed a couple of years ago, given the cost of the building and the likelihood of I thought we could save the admin building, which I do, but I didn't think we could. So I'm really pleased that we have an opportunity here. I appreciate your expertise in advising on the design of additions and alterations to the historic building. I would ask that you also consider what it requires from an investment standpoint to make this rehabilitation work. This is an incredible opportunity for our community, I believe, which has also, as you know, made a major financial investment in this area, and to connect it with the mill and the growth of jobs downtown in the Trades District is very exciting. The challenge is to balance our ambitions for the future of our community while respecting its past, and my urgent hope and encouragement is that both the Historic Preservation Commission and the Kiln Collective, the group ready to buy the building, will work together to find that feasible solution that activates and gives new life to this very difficult building, honoring its past and connecting it to the exciting future of the Trades District. The spirit of the Miracle on Morton is alive, and the Trades District ready to go forward. One personal suggestion that I'll throw out, not as an expert, but just a personal suggestion, I do think it would be really exciting to have a curated series of historic markers, boards, interpretive signage that can connect the kiln, the mill, the factory, the railroad, and to both for interpretive signs of this building and beyond, to kind of give the flow of this campus, which is an incredible asset. So I appreciate your attention, and I'll hand it over to people who know more than I. But thank you for your work here, and I hope we can make this project succeed. I think it'll be a great thing for the community. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Don Weiler. Before Lucas gets up here, I just wanted to, I'm going to take no more than 2 or 3 minutes here just to explain who the Kiln Collective is and why we are drawn to invest in the Kiln building. So the Kiln Collective is what we've called ourselves. It's 8 local residents who own businesses, some of which are established businesses, some of which are startup businesses, some of which are currently in the mill operating out of the mill and have, quite frankly, outgrown their space in the mill, or outgrown what the size of company that was targeted to be in the mill. And so all of the local residents will be owner occupants of the kiln. So, you know, that we'll have a very vested interest in the outcome and the quality of the space and the construction. Our intent is to, as the mayor said, make this a graduation space for companies coming out of the rather generic mill. You know, there's no shingles for individual companies hanging on the outside of the mill. The goal is for a company that has grown and needs a space that they can call their own and hang their shingle and get their name more well established, that they'll have the opportunity to do that in here. The 4 bays on the main level there, 4 of those will be occupied by tech startups. And so, you know, this being the tech park and this being the main focus of this building is to provide that graduation space for growing tech companies. So that's who's involved as to why we are drawn to this and why we submitted a proposal. I mean, we're local residents, you know, and we've lived here a long time. We're going to live here a long time. We know the historical significance of the Showers Brothers Furniture Factory to Bloomington and the economic engine that it was back in the day. And that's our goal, is to return the kiln to being an economic growth engine for the tech park and for Bloomington. The goal is to have the kiln and the mill remain connected, or go back to being connected. We used to have a flow of materials through the kiln to the mill. We're going to keep that. We're just going to reverse it. Now it'll be coming from the mill back to the kiln. So you'll see here in our slideshow, you know, some ways that we want to try to accomplish that. We have met with Marty, the local Showers Brothers historian and expert, and we've had some good discussions about, you know, coming up with possibly a walking trail that starts up just north of 11th Street where the logs were unloaded, and then having it so that you can walk from there all the way down to the city building and just walk through the process of how furniture was made when it was the Showers Brothers factory. You know, we could explain how things moved in and out of these bays at the kiln, and then how the carrier just took them right into the mill. So there's an opportunity for education. There's an opportunity also for some forestry education with our plantings. You can see around it, we've grayed them out in front of the building so it doesn't hide the building there. But you know, our intent is to plant. We've been talking to the urban forester about what trees to plant there. Our intent would be to plant trees that would have been used in the manufacturing of the furniture, hopefully, and so people can see those. And they also serve some very functional, have a good function for our building. In the way we've designed it, we want that historical red brick structure to stand proud. That is going to be what catches your eye. That's going to be the main thing you see, is that that red brick. And we're also very dedicated to keeping the 5 bays that were historically part of the structure intact. It just ironically works out as about the right size space you need for a growing company. So that's our goal, is to maintain those 5 bays as we move forward, because we think that is also integral to the historical significance, and it makes telling the story of the Showers Brothers a little bit easier as well. So with that, I will get out of the way, and I'm going to let Lucas Brown come on up, and he can walk through the slideshow. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Don. Thanks, Mayor. My name is Lucas Brown with Brown Smith Studios, collaborating with Bailey Weiler on the design for the structure. I'll be the architect of record. I want to echo the mayor's comments. Thank you for your service and for the important jobs you're doing in maintaining the historic integrity of Bloomington. I think it's very important, and I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback on this project. It's a tricky one. So I'll walk through what we've gone through up to date related to the building design. We'll get some feedback, and maybe we'll have a chance to see that game tonight. All right? So, so the first thing is that we're working. Okay. We're working with the rhythm of the existing structure that has this. It's load-bearing masonry at its thickest. The walls are about 26 inches wide. The brick masonry going down to very substantial foundations. We've gone through it with a structural engineer. We feel like it's stable enough to carry the 3 stories, and we can also add in a little additional structure if we need to. But we have this rhythm of the facade and the articulation of the brick. And in a preservation project we're adding to it, we want to differentiate from the existing structure. We don't want to replicate it or mimic it, right? So we're going to come in with another structure that plays off of that rhythm. So instead of creating a strong structural element at those divisions, we're actually creating a void, pushing the glazing back and exposing a wood surround on those windows. So on the north side of the building where we have these larger expressions, we have these larger picture frame windows that are set back into the facade with wood around the inside of the glazing, and then periodic windows in between those main windows. The 3rd floor, we're stepping back and we're putting on an overhang to protect the roof deck area to the south side, and also to differentiate and step it back from the bottom of the building. So we're really trying to step it back to lower the scale of the building. We're creating a continuity with materials, not just with the mill, with the vertical standing seam siding, but also with the FAR gallery, which was recently done as a historic project through your commission that uses the materials of wood, a dark metal panel siding with the existing red brick, which I'll show here in a minute. We're really focusing on the public space on the north side and the west side of the building, building off of this really great project that is Madison and the public space there, and creating a plaza between Madison Street and the building in the center of the building that is more of a public plaza. And then on the north side of the building, in the north bay, would be Soma, so it would be a little bit more of a private garden plaza where you could go and have your coffee and tea. We're working, as Don said, with native trees, hoping for shagbark hickory, but could be oaks or other types of trees that were traditionally used. And we're also planning for a sawtooth roof with, instead of light, solar panels, mimicking the sawtooth of the mill. So if we can go through the slides. The story of the Showers Brothers complex. Above on 11th Street, you had the stockyard with the logs that come down into the kiln and then into the mill. And so we're building on that flow of materials, and we're creating a very strong axis from the mill through the kiln site up to 11th Street, where we're going to make a connection back to the sidewalk. And how Don said, we have a reversal of the economic activity, but he left out the fact that you go from the mill into the kiln, where your space grows a little bit, and then across the street to Upland, where you can build some social capital. So here's what it looks like on site. You can see the opening in the mill where the cars would go from the kiln into the mill, and so we're drawing that axis through the site. So that would be the main sidewalk that comes up to 11th Street with connections back to each one of the bays, and then the larger public plaza space would be between that main axis and what's happening on Madison Street. Recently took a trip to Portland and was looking at precedent there. It's a city that has an urban growth boundary and a lot of historic structures, so I was looking at how the buildings actually grew in Portland and found this project down in the Pearl District, and I think it's just a really nice example of having a historic lower level and then stepping the building back, creating an overhang. It's very warm. It was a dark, rainy day in Portland, as they usually are, but you can kind of make out the wood soffit with the lights up there, and the elevator tower off on the far side of the building, clad in a darker metal panel. That would be a flush metal panel, which is similar to what we would be planning for this building. terms of scale, this is viewing the building from Rogers, and you can see that it meets the zoning ordinance guidelines for stepping the building down next to a historic structure so that we're not more than 1 story above the historic structure to the south. It also allows that light to come into the sawtooth roof in the mill building. It's not blocking too much there. And then that's going to be a roof patio above the 2nd floor, so you can walk out of the 3rd floor into that roof patio, and you can see the existing buildings above. It's actually dwarfed by the buildings in the background, really even at 3 stories. So just to give you a sense of scale from this perspective. Again, looking at precedent, this is the FAR with the historic red brick, the metal panel siding, and then the new addition, which is the gate project that has wood louvered panels. Looking a little bit closer at the FAR and also at the mill, at the vertical standing seam siding on both of the projects and how that works nicely with the brick. And this is viewing the project from the 4 perspectives. We've been looking at it from the northwest, upper right. When you look at it from the northeast, this actually becomes somewhat of a prominent vantage point as you take, as you go west on 11th Street from College. It is a pretty important view. Because we're building on top of an existing structure, we want to minimize the weight that goes on top of the kiln itself. But along the alley, we're putting in new retaining walls and foundations for the stairs, and so we feel like we can bring some masonry in along the backside of the building. So this would probably be lighter gray in color, could be limestone, could be a white or a gray brick. And then on the bottom right, it shows the powerhouse is what they call it, which is the little addition off to the backside of the kiln that powered the kiln space itself. With that, just elevations, again, showing the relationship mainly between the mill and the kiln, and then looking at the kiln from 11th Street.
Any questions? Jeff?
So I have some logistic questions around space, and it sounds like there's already some tenants. So there's 5 spaces on the 1st floor. What are the 2nd and 3rd floor spaces?
The 2nd floor would be business spaces, one larger 3,000 square foot space, and then one smaller 12 to 1,300 square foot space. On the 3rd floor would be another business space that would be about 1,200 square feet, and about a 600 square foot conference room that has been discussed as a kind of a flex space that could be overflow for the mill, could be used by any number of any of the businesses in the project itself, and the conference room would be directly adjacent to the roof deck area.
One of the some of the feedback we've gotten from the mill is that the conference rooms there, I mean, since it's grown so quickly and is so busy, that it's difficult to get conference rooms there sometimes. So one of the requests was if we could offer overflow, conference space or, meeting space, gathering space. That was one of the requests. But it could certainly be, another business suite, or whatever.
That's all for now, I guess.
So I just want to know about the details of the open spaces where the old doors were. Is that glass, or is that a solid panel with door in it, or what are those panels?
If we look at here, you're talking about the main bays.
The 5 bays, yeah.
It would be storefront, probably with a darker frame, solid panel on the bottom, and then I'd like to see wood doors, but it's a western-facing facade, and we might have to fall back and just go with maybe a metal full glass door, but a lot of glazing.
That's all glazing.
Yeah.
It looks like glazing. I was just wanting to make sure
Yeah.
it was.
And then we would open up the north side of the building too. Right now, we're showing one overhead door in Soma, and then one storefront opening with just a swinging door.
Where are you pointing to there?
Yeah.
There, okay.
Yeah, those two openings on the
Right,
north side.
yeah, so nice light,
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Yeah, really opening up,
look.
and then we'd open up the powerhouse too. There are really no windows in the powerhouse now, so put some nice windows on the east side there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what's the distance of those, the board and batten look in the metal panels?
That'd be a 16. On the mill currently there's 16-inch. That's a 16-inch rib. So right now we've been researching product. We can get a 16-inch rib on the standing seam, no problem. And then the flush metal panel might need to be a 12-inch flush metal panel based on availability of local product.
Mm-hmm, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is the proposed date of completion?
I'm not the builder.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's
That's
the builder.
what you're, proposing.
Yeah, well, I mean, so obviously at this point, we're working through, this will have to go to the state. We're also researching potential tax credits through IEDC. So part of it will be, what their timeline is. The hope would be that, the goal is to start as soon as possible. But if it's the second half of this year, it just depends on, how quickly we can get through all of the various state committees and approvals. So, but there's really no reason to delay it other than just making sure we have all of our ducks in a row before we get started.
No questions. So the structure sets back at the first floor just a smidge,
A little bit.
and you've also talked about the structure, the existing structure being in good enough structural shape to carry 3 floors. So I'm curious as to what the setback does, why it's there.
So the setback on the mill side, we're gonna have a minimum distance requirement away from an existing building in order to have any openings on the second floor. So, so we do have to set the second floor back on the mill side. On the 11th Street side, it just makes sense to step it back a little bit. We do have 26-inch wide walls, so if we bring the second floor just up to the inside of the wall, I feel like we're still gonna be able to, carry that second floor without much of a problem. We're going to be close enough to the wall to do that. And all the structure for the second floor, I don't want to get too much into details, but it's all going to be running lengthwise. So essentially, each one of the bays of the lower building will be carrying the ends of joists for the upper level. So the joists will be basically bearing on those masonry walls in the middle.
Gotcha.
So on the west side, there's no advantage to coming and putting any more weight on that west wall. They're large spans to begin with, and they're opening on the storefront. So that step back I'm not really concerned about. The other setbacks on the north and south side, we'll just have to do a little structural gymnastics to make sure we can carry those loads onto those masonry walls.
Yeah, so the second floor setback it's inspired by a zoning condition, is what you're saying, and not a structural condition.
We want to differentiate from the first level. So by stepping it back even 12 to 18 inches, it allows that lower facade to really stand out as that historic element, rather than building directly on top of the wall, making it feel like a continuation. I feel like it will separate the lower level out a little bit more aesthetically and achieve, I think, what we all want to achieve in terms of preserving that building.
And what's the setback from the second floor to the third floor, distance-wise, especially on the north and east and west? That lesser setback. Well, even on the west, it doesn't look like there is much of, or east doesn't look like
I don't
there's
have
much
those
one.
exact dimensions. I don't have those exact dimensions. There's no setback on the.
On the east.
There's no setback on the east. I think the setback on the north is going to be 4 or 5, or on the west side, on the top right side above the storefront, that would be about 4 or 5 feet. And
Is that occupiable space or just roof?
Is it a walkway?
I am simultaneously working on the facade and code at this point, so we do actually need a bit of a walkway from about the center of the third floor out to the roof deck. So there would be a little walkway about halfway down.
Did you have to rail it, or is it just?
You have to rail it.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be an emergency accident.
Big emergency. All right, and then it's just a flat roof with solar panels on the top, basically.
That's the plan. Mhm.
Okay, and then
Low slope.
flat is
yeah,
euphemism.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and then on the east side, what informs the form of all this new masonry stuff? It feels like it's busy. So I'm just curious as to what programmatic elements are informing that.
Yeah, so that's going to be the main entrance for the second floor and third floor and the powerhouse space. We're very tight to the alley. So in front of the stair tower, which would be the larger vertical element, you have parking right there. We do need that stair. Obviously, 2 stairs all the way from the third floor going out of the building, and then the smaller space to the south of the stair tower is a lobby, 2-story open lobby.
Mm-hmm.
And so programmatically, that's what's happening there is a main entrance for the bulk of the business spaces in the back and the upper levels and the staircase.
Gotcha, thank you.
No questions. I had my own question was, I love the design in general. In the back, that's Morton back here on the northeast corner, right?
If you step back half a block, yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
It's an
so
alley.
it's not very.
It's an alley.
So it's actually an alley where those cars, it looked like you had, okay, so the little flat, sorry.
Let me come back to the site plan here, and that might
Okay,
help a
yeah,
little
that's
bit.
good. So that's an alley back there, and then where's the entrance? Is that, we can't see it in the other one, it's that stuff to the right, bottom right corner?
There's a little tag there that says main entrance, and I don't have the mouse with me. Connor,
Okay.
could you?
Kinda near
there are
the
stairs
handicap
right-
parking
yeah, so-
spot?
Yeah, so there's a ramp directly between the handicap parking spot and the powerhouse is a ramp. So you can exit the vehicle, go down the ramp, and then the main entrance is just north of the mouse right there. And that would be the main lobby space.
Okay, and where you have the handicap parking there, is that gonna be level with the alley, or is there a drop down to that?
It'll be level with the alley, and then
Okay.
between the parking space and the ramp, obviously, there would be a wall.
Between the parking space and the
The ramp,
ramp.
yeah.
there'll be a
So-
wall.
Because the ramp starts going up. Word.
Okay,
The ramp, yeah, drops down. We have a lot of various levels that we're trying to
Yeah,
equal
yeah, I
out in
was-
this building. It's a bit of a trick.
okay.
Can I jump into the question? What's immediately to the east of the alley? I mean, what is over there?
It's a little warehouse building with no windows and a lot of parking lot.
Surface lot.
Yeah. This is weird. Control
Something to be done.
Yeah. And that lot's about a full story higher than the kiln. So whatever gets built there will start off, at about the roof of the existing kiln structure.
Yeah, I knew there's a lot of drop that way, and I was just worried the handicap parking space, when you put it in, you can't have a wall on the left, because then I don't think you could really get out very well with that much backup space. You know what I mean? Because often handicap vehicles are a little long, the vans and stuff are kind of long. So on your plan, I was just concerned you had enough room to back up and get out of your space if you had a little wall, if the alley was slightly above the parking space.
Oh, no, it's
So
all,
it'll be- that was
yeah.
my
Mhm,
concern about
mhm.
that.
It meets all the
And then-
accessibility requirements.
Where are your dumpsters and stuff going to be? And just a question.
been some discussion that we could have a shared agreement with the mill.
If you go back to the site plan, there's a little extra space. If you look just north of the stairs, there will be a walk-in cooler in that space for Soma outside of the building, and we'll be screening that. And then there's, there's quite a bit of outdoor space on that north part of the building.
So you enter the lower level for that stairwell?
Yeah, the stairs drop down to get to basically the finished floor level for the entire first floor.
The main entrance and sort of the bays will be on the west side.
Right, yeah.
For those, they'll be able to walk in right at street level.
No questions. Comments?
It's beautiful. I'm a little concerned that once it's done, there's not going to be any reference to that old building. Yeah, the brick will be there, but a lot of it's going to be covered. A lot of the doorways are gone, and it's a good reuse of this building. So I'm conflicted.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree, it's a good way to reuse the building. And the eastern view is a little odd, but it'll eventually get closed in, but maybe there could be some work done on that. I'm not sure, but I have a suggestion.
I don't.
Yep.
Which is lower left, right? That's the eastern view.
So it's from the alley.
Uh-huh. I don't know what could be done, something could be done better than those big blank spaces, and I'm not sure what that solution is. But generally, I think it's the right idea to have that subordination of the two upper stories, and it's hard to think how to reuse that building otherwise. It's a box. So I think I'll want to be supportive, and do they get tax credits? Can they get state and federal tax credits if we approve
They seek
this?
those tax credits, they can get those tax credits because it's in the National Register Historic District.
Yeah, right.
We have explored it. The question is, we've talked to, so Cynthia Brubaker's a local historic tax credit expert, and she obviously was involved heavily with the Showers redevelopment and several other, she works a lot with Cook. And, she was hedging her bet on whether or not the federal program, she just wasn't exactly sure
This is going a little far.
if this would get it or not. So, but then the IEDC, Indiana Economic Development Corporation, has a program that's actually just new this year that actually we seem to fit the bill almost perfectly for it. So anyway, we're trying to work with the local experts, obviously as close as we can to see if that'll work.
Right. I'm just thinking that'll be a prominently visible facade and an entrance, so.
We'll keep working on it. We've got a little time. We wanted to bring some masonry in. I mean, there are much worse stair towers out there, so we're trying to bring some light into the stairs, bring in some masonry in where we can. I understand the comments about it maybe appearing a little bit too busy, but there is a lot going on, and we're trying to fit a lot into that space.
Right.
So
You could
but your
consider some
comments taken.
texturing of the brick with insets like the building has now that are lost.
Yeah.
And it could be a painted brick that gives texture without being a blank wall.
Yeah, obviously
Just
we're
thoughts.
not rendering materials here. It's just somewhat diagrammatic in
Right.
terms of type of materials. Point taken.
I'll throw out one fantasy I have for this area, which is a noon whistle. A traditional old work whistle that just every noon hits it. You know, it'd be cool. Remind you of the whole factory theme.
We know where the original Showers factory is.
Let's get that sucker.
Yeah.
Maybe we can
Well,
put
the
that up on
problem
the
is
rooftop.
powering it.
Yeah, it really worked out.
What's that?
The problem is powering it. It needs a lot of steam.
Sure. Can't imagine that's insurmountable.
Work on campus.
Yeah, over at campus, there's nothing powering.
Lee, any comments?
I'm thrilled that we're gonna keep the kiln, thrilled. And I think that the design is very sensitive and I really like it. And I understand it's still in flux, but I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, I remember those discussions about this building possibly going away, so it's always just been kind of sitting there, just waiting for this use to come along. So I think it's a perfect use. Again, I think as Mayor Hamilton said, the obvious is it's not a building that was ever designed to be an occupied structure. So whatever is done to this structure is going to have a big impact on it, and that's just something that we have to recognize. And I think you've done a good job. I think the base, I really like the west and the north view of the lower level. A couple of things, again, since this is just kind of a commentary and design review, I agree with what's been said on the east side, the stair towers. And I know you've got to have both stairs to have exits off of the other, egress from second floor and third floor. But if that's your main entry, and I know we don't want to historicize something new, but I still think there's not enough reference given to the other side of the building in this new entry. And I don't know if that's done with modern materials to pick up the idea of a bay or some way to express what this building was at one point in the entry. I don't know if that's a wood-framed bay-sized canopy, or something. I don't know, but I look at this side and it's the one part of the building I don't like, but it's going to be the main entry. So I think that needs some thought. And again, your point's taken that this is just a massing model and all of that. The other part that I think I struggle with, and I knew when I saw it, I thought, okay, the roof. At first, I thought you were just mimicking the sawtooth roof in general, but I kind of figured that you were going to do solar. And again, like most of the structures here that we've retrofitted and allowed to take place, because it should happen. The only thing I have an issue with is that in this campus, this would then be probably the only structure that has an overhang, where most of the roofs of this building, the administration building, they're all either parapet type of roof structures. So I'm having a hard time coming to grips with the overhang, only because it's such a different vocabulary than what's already here. And I understand why you're doing it, and I'm not saying I'm completely in disagreement with it. I'm just throwing out ideas that the admin building, this building are all either parapet structures in some parts, or you see the sawtooth. I don't know if I really want to see a duplication of the sawtooth, either in solar panels or not, because I think it does start to historicize something. But I'm not sure, I think the overhang is so big that it becomes like a giant cap on this building. And I think part of me wants to see this base and then see this building more dissolve at its top level, as opposed to have this big heavy hand that tends to squash the building down. Again, that's just my opinion, but it is a new element, I think. And again, the other part is I don't know about windows. What do you do on the addition? I love the metal panels. I love the glass railing, but I don't know. Again, as you go down the road, looking at what you're going to do with the window vocabulary, again, because we don't want to go so far that we historicize it, but we don't want to go so different that it just looks out of place. So there's a balance there, and I'm sure you'll figure it out, but again, it's just a thought. I love the use, I love the idea, and I think it's gonna be a great project. So,
Do you think that overhang defeats the purpose of the subordination of the upper stories?
yeah, because it becomes such a heavy element. I don't think I would mind the overhang, and I see it there. Again, but look how far back that is. That's right, that sets back so far. And the base of that building is a 2-story base, so that upper level still seems to me, and I've seen that building before, it looks so, because it's set back so far, it takes on a real subordinate issue, where this, you can see how the 2 stories you're adding is very heavy over the 1-story bay. So I think you need to minimize that, not highlight it. I wouldn't mind, and I get the overhang at the south end. I think you could do that there. But I think to carry it all the way around the building, I think is probably not the treatment to take. I think you could do something different there. And you know, I know as architects we get focused on something and then we carry it all around, and you know, it doesn't leave our mind, but I think, again, as you work this out, I think you've done a great job working out a lot of the other details. I think it's just the roof and the east side a little bit, and you've got a home run.
Great, thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
I want to echo a lot of what Doug said, and a few other things to add in. I really appreciate how the new fenestration, especially at the ground floor, it's true. I think that it's true to what's going on. It reveals the structure of the original building, and it maintains that building. The issue I am having, I really like that you've differentiated the upper story materials from the lower story. You know, that's a no-brainer. It makes all kind of sense. There's a tension, and for me, it's an uncomfortable tension with the levels of setbacks you have. Both at the first and second floors. The project you showed from Portland, as Doug was saying, it's like so far back that it becomes a different building. And this one, it's not quite there yet. It's like a half of a setback. And then even the first floor, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, the 1 foot setback, that's why I was asking the earlier questions, is like, where did that come from? Because if it's not structural, you know, then you have the opportunity to fool around with that a little bit. The entrance stuff, I'm directionally challenged, the east side, that feels like there's some massaging left to do, because you can't, it doesn't read like, go in there. And you've got 2 very different buildings going on. You've got the bottom building, which is these, you know, lovely, clearly delineated bays, boom, 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 boom. And then the back side is like, I don't know what the interior circulation of the building is, but from what the way you've been speaking about it, is like the ground floor is a totally different animal than the upper 2 stories. And there's really no connection between those. The bottom 5 bays, those are discrete chunks of program space. Is that fair to say?
You're nailing it. It's a tough design challenge.
Yeah, so you've got this
entrances to this building.
Yeah, so you've got this whole other chunk of stuff on the east side that, you know, you've got to do all of your infrastructural, you've got to do all your vertical circulation, you've got to do whatever parking, you've got to do all of your back of house stuff in the front, because the back of your house is the front of the other house, which is underneath it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, so that's going to be fun and tricky. But figuring out where your service stuff is relative to where your entry is, I think is you know, the walk-in cooler feels like the most present element side of the entrance right now, which feels a little weird. That just from reading the drawings. So it's, and then the other bit, and I'm gonna sort of follow up on the roof. It's I would either like hide the solar panels or exaggerate the solar panels, because there's this tension right now between, are you solar paneling and sawtoothing, or, are you doing a flat roof? It feels like it's like you're not committing to what the roof is yet. But I have some sympathy for, it is a new vocabulary element, but it's also a brand new building, and it's a very modern intervention on an historic building.
Well, and that's why I said you've got to differentiate it. I get that. I'm not sure if that's the element to do it, but I get it.
Yeah, well, it's being differentiated in a number of ways, through materials and through form. It is, would you go to the elevation that shows that's your job. That one. It feels, because you've got that big wiggly line. That's the tall buildings, but you've got this grade that comes all the way down. So it's going to be anything on the east side, regardless of what you do, it's going to be taller than the stuff on the west. So do you have an elevation of the north, a north elevation of the building? It's like, so you've got this grade that's coming down, and I'm wondering if that stuff on the east side, if that actually comes up a bit, right? So then the stuff on the west side, you can make that setback a little more dramatic, so you can beef up the program.
You don't have to play with that horizontal line that you've created at the roof and
not
the
as
stair.
much. If you beef up the program that's on the west, all the stuff at the lower left, if you fill that in a little bit, then maybe you can relax it a little bit on the upper right. That makes sense? So, and I guess the only other thing is the way the buildings, the new stuff touches the old stuff. I really appreciate how it works at the roof. But I think looking at how the new, you call it limestone or whatever, the new light-colored masonry stuff, how that intersects, that detail is going to be pretty critical, because you can't just smack it up against the building and call it done. So take a look at that when you get there. Okay.
I think an important thing to note about this is that there are two different buildings.
Yeah.
And that's really the way, the upper right and the lower left.
Yeah.
And with the vertical element really expressing the new addition, and then maintaining the horizontality of the historic structure. And so, we're really playing off of that. I don't know that it's appropriate to wrap the horizontal line all the way around, and I kind of like the vertical grounding of the stair tower.
Yes.
And I think you're right. It's a little bit busy, and we can make the entrance a little bit more prominent, and maybe make some connections back to the historic structure. Plus, the powerhouse, I think, is going to play a lot more prominently into the visuals of this view, because it's such a nice building, and we're going to have a lot of nice transparent glass there. So. Yeah,
but how do you get back to that? How do you How do you direct people, both visually and physically, to get through to there? Because you don't have a lot of room to work with.
We have very little room.
Yeah, it's tricky.
All right. Well, great comments, Sam. Thanks.
I do think I have a better understanding of your questions about the setback and why. Part of the reason probably for a more minimal setback on that second floor is simply due to the space needs of the businesses that are going to occupy that space. They need X amount of square feet for their operations, and so, if we stepped it back more, then we'd.
But I'm saying on the second floor, don't. I'm saying step it back less, maybe even.
Less. Okay.
But then on the third floor, that's where you can relax a little bit, right? Okay. And then while I'm yamming around a little bit more. The fenestration on the upper floor, some of it actually reads residential to me. And I'm wondering, and I think it's the size of those double windows read as sort of 1970s, 1980s residential architecture. The vertical ones above the bays, I think those work really well. But looking at either the proportions or the sill heights or something on those, the two double windows in the middle. Yeah. And I think, having a very limited palette of windows is a very important thing to do, but is that what, is that it?
Yeah, well, we've got, the huge western exposure, and, over time, we're gonna have a nice, the intent here is to have the overstory growing in. It's gonna provide substantial shade,
Yeah.
but that's gonna be a while.
It's true.
So we're gonna have a pretty exposed western facade, so
Yeah.
those windows are tricky.
Yeah, and but it looks like you're using, you shrunk them down somewhat. It's a little hard to see, but you're using some of the same windows on the north as you are on the west. And then are those doors also on the north?
No, those are all just larger windows that mimic the bay.
Because on the north,
bays,
yeah.
And they have they're larger elements on the north side.
Yeah.
The brick.
Thanks.
So I am not an architect. I'm a historian, and I'll say, I really love this. I don't have the issues with the setbacks or the overhang. I like those. I really like the use of materials. The Showers Brothers always considered themselves to be the most modern of the time, and the furniture they made was modern as well, so I really like the modern and contemporary look. And I really love the correlation between the uses of both this and the mill. So thank you. I think it's really nicely done.
Okay. Thank you.
I really like it. I can understand the points you guys were making about the overhangs and stuff like that. It doesn't really bother me about the skylights on the top because it kind of leans towards that one, but it's not replicating it exactly. And I know we're not supposed to do things exactly. So I get that. I mean, I can understand all of this, and it's going to be, there's a lot of decisions still to be made at the minor points, but the devil is in the details. Like I said, if the alley side was on Morton, I'd be really bothered by that. But it is an alley. So other than getting people to that entrance, if that's going to be a major entrance, is there going to be just people working up there, or are there going to be people shopping there or anything like that? It's just going to be a business where the employees are coming in, so they're not really going
clients.
to some clients. Okay.
But pretty low, very low volume.
Right, so you're not trying to track people
retail.
off the street, they're going to just, okay, so that would be a concern, that you make known that entrance, so that makes it less a problem. So I'm not an architect, I'm not gonna say make this bigger, make that smaller, take these guys' advice more than mine. I am really into trees and botany, and I can suggest a tree that would be really nice if you'd like a large tree, and that's a black gum. They do not have the little balls that the sweet gums have on them. And they're a lovely tree, and they're not heavily used, and they were greatly used previously, but they were such good lumber that nobody's ever heard of them anymore. So you'll find a lot less of it. Yeah, Chris, you could probably ask Chris also what exactly was being used in that era, but I know they used the gum a lot inside houses they were building.
Trim.
All the trim, the doors, had a lot of gum. It was used heavily in this area, and most people don't even know what it looks like.
That's kind of our hope.
And it's a nice overstory.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll need some
Very nice.
smaller, lower trees on the north side as well, because we have some utility lines that we're contending with.
Right,
so.
and, if you want to go native, there's some really nice ones that we can suggest for that too.
That'd be our hope, is
sure.
as you go on that walking trail by those trees, we could have a little plaque. Here's the kind of tree it is, and,
Right.
Here's why it was useful, back in the day, so. yeah.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thanks.
My only comment is I think it's a very good project. I like what's being presented to us. I'm not so concerned with the architectural part of it. I think it all will work together. And I think it's a great addition to the area. I also would like to thank the mayor for coming this evening and speaking to us. And Mr. Black, I'm glad you came this evening too. And I think we have got this covered.
saying we've taken enough time.
Please,
Just a summary of the front to the back. You might draw up, and maybe you already have, drawn a version where the back of the building speaks to the front of the building. They just seem to be different in a way that is maybe discordant. Just give it a thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Shall we move on?
Pass that keyboard around here, maybe.
20 years old? Okay. All right, so we move on to commission review. And we'll start out with COA 20-4, 703 South Woodlawn Avenue in the Elm Heights District. And is our petitioner here this evening?
Is there a petitioner here for this? Oh.
Okay.
Next.
All right. Let's move on to COA-20-5.
Do we have time in the calendar to hit that one at the next meeting?
Yeah, because it's a commission review, it's a COA.
This is a retroactive COA that works.
Right.
Okay. This is an enforcement thing.
Okay.
Sorry
Right.
to get to the stage where.
I keep wanting to.
I know. Okay.
All right, COA 20-5, 412 East 4th Street, which is part of Restaurant Row Historic District. And is the petitioner here with us?
Yes.
Okay, good.
This is contributing building in the Restaurant Row local historic district. T-Plain Cottage, built circa 1880. Property is zoned commercial downtown. The request is for several alterations to convert the upstairs to rental units. The first of which is to rebuild a second level entry stair and deck. The deck will be expanded. It'll go from a 6x6 to an 8x8, so it'll kind of go out a little bit these ways. You can see to be a little larger, and the roof will be raised because right now it's very cramped. You have to stoop over if you're a tall person. The next request is to replace existing vinyl windows, which are indicated with the color yellow on these pictures, with new wood-clad vinyl windows, and repair original double-hung wood windows here. Yeah, I hadn't heard of wood-clad vinyl either, but we have a petitioner to talk about them later. So let's keep our focus on this.
Go ahead, sorry.
The pink ones are original wood windows. And these three, the petitioner is going to be repairing and maintaining. However, let's talk about the rear or south elevation of the building here. There are some windows that the petitioner is requesting to replace these two with a taller window and make that a casement window. That's to meet egress. The petitioner also wishes to either remove this window here or move it over, as it is currently in the way of a room expansion here. So you can see that this is the windows that they want to make taller. I believe the new measurements will be 27 3/4 by 37 1/4. And this is the window they want to move. The reason is they want to move this wall over to about here just to create this some more room for this proposed bedroom here. So you can't have the wall in the middle of a window. So there is not currently guidelines of reference, although those are in the works, as you know, but staff would recommend approval of items 1 and 2. Essentially, these are just rebuilding or replacing existing features. The enlargement of the stairs will have a minimal visual impact. And regarding the windows in the rear, part of the character of the district is the unique adaptation of these buildings to meet commercial needs. And staff finds that the height, the form, and the roof shapes of the buildings, combined with some of the architectural elements found along the 4th Street facade, really are what contribute to the character of this district. And altering features on the rear facade of the buildings in the district does not detract from the historic character of Restaurant Row. Therefore, staff supports replacing the windows in the south elevation with larger casement-style windows to meet egress, replacing the 2 double-hung windows with vinyl, and moving or removing the 6/1 window on the rear.
Petitioner, do you have any more to add?
He's here.
Yep.
Okay.
If you guys have questions, I'd be more than glad to answer any.
We'll move to questions.
One
Jeff.
of our vinyl clad.
I brought a sample with me.
Vinyl clad wood window.
So basically, it's still it's an exterior wood core with a vinyl coating, and it can be an interior. Actually,
Wood on the inside.
Yeah.
correct.
It's the Anderson 400 series, so it's
Okay.
it's a good window. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So it's wood-clad vinyl, not vinyl wood. Or it's vinyl-clad wood, not wood-clad
Yeah,
vinyl.
vinyl
Okay.
clad. Correct.
I know what those are.
Yeah.
All right.
No questions.
Chris?
There's a wood-clad fiberglass.
Doug?
No questions. I'm part of this project, so
I'm sorry.
I'll abstain. For him or for me?
No comment.
Sam?
Would you bring the picture of that interior construction picture up? Yeah, of the back one. And these are purported to be original windows?
We think that was a porch that was enclosed at one side. That floor of that is sloping, so we think at one point
It
the
was
floor of
open
this
to the
was a
air.
roof and they just enclosed it.
Yeah.
And so those windows are not as original as others that are being kept. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
They
so
happen to be wood framed.
Okay, and then the next picture over, that one, I'm probably gonna reiterate my suspicion that it's an original one, but I can't tell from the picture. Do you have since you've been on site, you got any?
Yeah, there are windows everywhere in this building. Half of them, well, not half. Other than these windows you've seen in these pictures, all the other windows, but three in the
correct.
front are all vinyl replacements already. What we're doing with, and what wasn't brought up is, in the front corner, go back to the picture. So there's a mismatch of windows. They could have found one from the building, they could have found one from the shed next door. So this top left picture, the circle, all those three windows.
Yep.
Those look to be the only original windows in the building, and those are where a kitchen and a bathroom are now, and we are leaving those windows, and we've kind of made it work around them because those are the only what I really think are the original building.
Gotcha.
All the ones that are Soylent Green colored are literally vinyl replacement windows, and then you can see even on the lower there's some horizontal windows that are like sliders that are
Yeah, those
vinyl.
came from Lord knows where. Okay.
And that little window in the back, it looks to me like it's the same era as these next to it.
Gotcha.
And honestly, it's also where if you see that top right picture, we've got power and everything else coming in here and up, and it's really too
Exciting.
close
Yes.
to move, so,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I got nothing else, thank you.
No questions.
I was wondering, is the stairwell gonna look just like that one, or are you gonna do something a little different? Because that one's pretty not
Do you want me
pretty.
to answer?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're kind of dealing with a couple of issues. Planning is one of them, and
Right.
how much pervious surface. So the deal is that stair doesn't meet half a dozen different building codes.
Yeah.
Risers are too small, or risers are too tall, treads are too small. It's really congested at the top and has a headroom issue. So planning didn't have a problem as long as we changed it minimally. As far as our design goes, we don't want to enclose it.
No.
So it'll still be an open wooden exit stair. There's not a lot we can do. I mean, if we could use maybe some aluminum, the pre-finished aluminum. I didn't want to draw attention to it.
Right.
And my worry is that if we use high-end railings, it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb.
No, I was thinking maybe, the rails come up and maybe put a cap on it. That might make it a little more, instead of
Just having
the
it with
one by
deck
ones just
balusters.
kind of nailed on there. Just kind of cap it off a little bit. It might make it feel a little closer to the era, because
Well, to make it
That
meet
is how
code,
we
he's
build
gonna
it.
have to do something.
yeah.
It would be built that way.
Okay.
So,
And then the front rail is lovely on the porch, and being in design, it'll be a little bit closer. I know you can't do a railing like that. For one thing, it's way too low for something like this. But yeah, maybe smooth it out a little bit and make it a little less.
70s, 80s.
Yeah. Thank you.
so are you gonna beef up that structure? The stair structure? I mean, right now, it looks like 4x4s.
It
and-
shakes when you walk on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, you're gonna beef that all up and,
It looks frail to me.
yeah.
They haven't been in, the second floor, right when you go in, to the right is, what Sean and his partner are doing to this, once you kind of tore some things away inside, I mean, there's so many places inside where you can see out. So you wonder how much was getting in,
Right.
deterioration wise. There's some beams we're gonna do to keep the second floor up. It's been 2 apartments up there, but it hasn't been occupied for how long?
Been several years. 5+
Quite a
years.
few years. And you can see why. I mean, the floor goes every which direction up there. So we're putting some beams in, and so what they're doing to the building is gonna ensure that it's gonna stand as a house like Restaurant Row has been for some time in the future.
Yeah. I was just thinking, a little chunkier on the bottom, like you can see that post right there on the porch. So maybe, like the bottom, chunkier post and then a top rail, and then, it would feel more like it went with that house.
Yeah, we agree.
All right. Comments? Jeff? Chris?
I support the project. I just caught that detailed discussion about the railing on the deck. I agree, make it look like it's contemporary with the building.
Yep.
Or could be.
Lee?
I support the project too.
Doug?
I've said all my comments.
Sam?
You're recusing yourself too, right?
Yes, I am.
I've got no issues. I think it's, I would support it as well.
Yeah, I support it too.
Okay. I too, I support it as well. So we need a motion? Second? B, great.
Doug Bruce,
Abstain?
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden, Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0-1.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Good luck with your project.
We'll trust you on the deck.
All right, so let's move on to COA 20-6, 1818 East First Street, Elm Heights.
So what we're actually looking at is a detached garage on a contributing house in the Elm Heights Historic District. The garage is certainly of the same era of construction as the house. The request is a demolition of the garage. The Elm Heights guidelines talk about detached garages as the most common type found in the district, so this matches that. And the preservation goals in the guidelines state to retain and restore original garages and service buildings along with their materials and features through cleaning, repair, and maintenance. Looking at this garage, I visited the site with Barry and the homeowner, and I can confirm that it doesn't have a masonry foundation. It was, I guess, you have wood sill plates there at the bottom with wall studs, so, and they're obviously severely deteriorated, both the sills and the bottom of the wall studs. So, as a result, you can see a pretty significant lean there in the garage. If you look at the top picture. Staff finds that the lack of structural stability combined with the petitioner's compatible designs for new construction of a garage is enough to validate demolition of the structure.
Okay. Barry, do you have additional?
Hi, so I'm Barry from Twin Architects, and Scott Lisbon is here, one of the owners. I don't have too much to add. The owners like the garage. It's not a problem with the garage. It's, you can see there had been cabling added at some point, some tie rods to help keep the structure together. It's been limping along for quite a while, and they have young children, and they're just really concerned about the safety of the garage. So this is really going to, the next case is a replacement. So there's a need for a garage, and that's all I have to add if there are any questions.
I didn't get any input from the neighborhood, no.
In general, the neighborhood doesn't like to tear down buildings. It's in a historic district. It's kind of a bad precedent to set. So if you guys decided you're going to vote for tearing it down, please make it very clear, because why you would do it, because if you don't, people are like, well, you let them tear down the garage, it looked fine to me. So, and that was basically what I heard. If I asked, they didn't really write anything to me, but I called them and they said, well, that seems really weird to tear something down. So I'm like, okay. And the only other comment somebody else made was, I wonder why it doesn't match the style of the house. Because the eaves and the clipped eave is different and the open eaves are different. And so it's quite different than the style of the house.
Do I have a picture? I don't have a picture of the house.
Oh, and I'll make comments later, but that's all I heard from other people.
Yeah, is the goal to get a two-car garage instead of a one-car garage?
No, it's just to have a garage that's functional. The garage is 16 feet deep.
Yeah.
So it really it can't really accommodate a car. And when we had the property survey, we included the survey. The back part of the garage sits over the property line. It's not on the owner's property.
So you can't add on to it because you're
Can't
already
really
over
add
the
on to
property
it.
line.
I think there may have been an issue in the past because there is a bit of a bump out, sort of like a lean-to at the back.
Oh, yeah,
and I
that's
think it had those capacity issues.
It fit the Model
you know,
T just fine.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not very functional, and I mean, we look pretty closely at the wall structure, and really all of the bottom of the studs are mostly gone. And we had Kevin Potter come out and kind of look at it as well with us. Because, like I said, the owners like the garage. There's nothing. It's just it really isn't. It would be hard to invest in it and bring it back to life in its current form, being that it sits over the property line and it is substandard in size in terms of being able to serve the family.
Okay,
Thanks.
Sure.
thank you.
Questions, is it?
Yes.
No questions.
So is there's some drawings in our packet showing a new garage. It looks like it's bigger than this one. It's deeper. It's 20 feet.
It would be 20 feet deeper.
It's 20 feet deep, but it's also a foot off of the back property line, which doesn't comply with current zoning.
Exactly.
And my understanding is that if you repair in place, you can do what you want to, but if you tear it down and start afresh, you need a variance.
Right.
Okay.
And we have applied for a variance.
And does that need to go through here?
No. So we have Keegan here, he's a planner, he can tell you about the variance. I believe they're ready to support it.
Yes, they'll be going to the hearing officer on the 19th, and then we are supporting the variance.
Great.
What is the variance? How far off the property line is the?
They'll be 1 foot from the south property line.
Okay.
That's all I got, thanks.
No questions.
Okay,
What are the side and rear setbacks for a detached garage now?
5 feet.
5 feet for a
For both.
detached, even without an alley?
Yeah.
Okay. Did the owners check into, do you know what adverse possession is? Okay, an adverse possession, if you've used a piece of property for a certain length of time and building a part of a building on it is
Sure.
part of it, it's the definition of adverse possession. So if they really wanted that little piece of ground, they could pretty easily claim it. They'd have a legal standing on it. Of course, if they remove it, then they can't.
It's gone. Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And it looked a little hard because the 5 feet, is that going to be, how long are the eaves going to be on this? Because the house has eaves, this has eaves.
Are you talking about new construction, Jenny?
Yeah, it's a question. If they do new construction, or do we do that questions after?
We're gonna have a COA.
we're gonna have a
Construction.
CO of the.
Okay, so that'll be
construction.
separate,
Yeah,
okay.
separate.
So I'll
This is
I'll
just
keep
about
those for
demolition.
later.
Okay.
So this is the demolition, and we don't know what door it has on it, it's just been open like that?
It's
and-
open.
Okay. Right, that was my questions.
I don't have any questions. Comments, Jeff? Chris?
Yeah, I'm not impressed with the condition argument. I've fixed half a dozen of these exactly worse than this. So, and Jeff did one too, so we know you can put them back. I don't know what we would base our decision on. My sympathy is a car doesn't fit in it very well. But they're getting, some cars would fit in and some cars wouldn't. They could be repaired for, you know, a quarter of the cost of replacement. And they always have their feet wet and everything else is fine above 6 inches, you know. So it's not that hard to fix them. So I don't know where I am on this. I sympathize with the need and want for a garage that actually functions as a garage. But I don't know that that's our job as preservationists. So I'm gonna decide as, I haven't made up my mind. Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I think in consideration to the current owners and that this building is modest, that its removal would not affect the overall building.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The removal would not take away from the property. And
Yeah, let's just take a view from First Street, see.
yeah,
It's full view from First.
and unfortunately, I don't remember what the new one looks like, but it seems like it's pretty close.
Pretty similar.
Yeah.
Is it this one here?
So, I guess
Yeah.
in that case, I'm supporting the demolition of.
That's it at the end of the drive?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it, but kind of.
Can you Google up the driveway a little?
No, I can't. For you if
There you
want.
go. Thank you.
That's all.
Thanks, Jeff. Lee?
No comments.
Doug?
Yeah, I agree with what Chris is saying, but I also think I've had a little more leeway, I think, with, especially when you look at this, with an accessory structure, and especially one that's so far to the rear from the public way, public view. Again, I know we're only talking about the merits of what's there now, not what would be there, but I think seeing some of the pictures of it and having Kevin Potter come out and look at it, I've seen a lot of structures, but I haven't seen too many accessory structures where somebody's come in with a system with the cable to try to right the structure and straighten it up, you know, with a especially in just a little one-car garage for a Model T. So, and I you know, I'm kind of on the fence. I get the idea of wanting to replace it with something. You know, it doesn't have a door on it for now. There's, you know, I wondered even what the date of this structure is, this accessory structure. Did we have anything in any like the Sanborn maps or anything?
I'm pretty sure it's the same era.
The same
Pretty sure,
era?
If not, maybe 5 years after the house was built,
Okay.
right around that same time, because it's so small.
Okay, yeah. But I also, you know, get the idea of the structural work it's gonna take and the fact that it is, you know, my thing that differentiated is look how, I mean, that's quite a long driveway. That's a pretty far back. I don't think it's gonna be as visual, yeah. But I get it, and you know, I also, the whole neighborhood idea, I mean, typically they tend to come out very strongly if there's something that they're completely against, so, and we've had some garages in this neighborhood come forth. I'm thinking of the one on University at one point, but that was a brick garage, much closer to the street, much more character defining for the house, I think, than this structure, so. That's all my comments.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm on the fence on this one too. I have a lot of sympathy with Chris's. You can fix it, but you fix it, it's not necessarily useful. And they are putting a garage back, and part of the things I harp on all the time are settlement patterns, which are as important as, well, to me, as the, some of the structures themselves, so.
No comment.
No comment about that. I had a question about, do they need a change, a C of A also for changing the driveway?
We were actually, I was gonna, when we were talking, I was just gonna actually bring that up.
Yeah, I think you do if you're gonna
Was
change
it,
from
would that be
gravel.
a separate COA?
It's
Cover?
change of
I
material.
wasn't aware that that was in these plans to put a gravel driveway.
It mentions it.
I think we did say it.
It says new paved driveway, but
So they're
on the drawing.
pave a driveway here?
Yeah, and I think those are
Potentially.
limestone edges on both sides of the property. That's the reason I brought it
Right,
up.
right.
So,
So the issue now that we've looked at as part of the survey is there isn't decent drainage off the driveway to the north. And there's currently a problem with water getting into the neighbor's basement. So the first thing the owner is going to do is reroute all of the downspouts and dig in the yard and bring that to the north, and then we'll be able to isolate that water issue and see if that addresses the problem. I think the owner likes the driveway as it is, and likes the character of the driveway. We're looking at what it would take to actually get a positive slope to the north, and it means raising everything about a foot over, which isn't that much really considering the length of the entire driveway. So if we would need a separate, I don't know how that would be handled. We could apply for a separate one.
Realized that, I would have just included that as part of
In this one, okay.
Or,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ask a question, doesn't that mean the garage would be a foot?
Right, exactly. So we would, if we were to do that, we would need to know that we were doing that before the garage would be built. So that does, of course, impact that elevation.
And how would you deal with the limestone wall? Would that remain there on the?
Yes, yes. So we believe that would remain,
the
because at
east.
that point we'd be coming down considerably. So the goal is to work with everything that's there. We believe that the retaining wall that's on the east side, goes down far enough that if anything is excavated or exposed along that, there is limestone there. So obviously we would be building up toward the back. And so there wasn't a lot of concern at this point. To tell you the truth, I mean, we haven't, it's sort of at the initial stages of the project and looking at what's feasible. So I think it's on the table as a consideration. I don't know, maybe the owner is here.
Yeah.
Do you want to come up here and maybe talk about that a little bit?
The water has a right to run where it's running right now.
Right. Well, I think the issue is that it's running into the neighbor's basement, and so this owner has an obligation to remediate that problem.
Not a legal obligation.
they also need to meet their own downspout goes right there too.
Right. So
It's a neighborly obligation,
it's
but it isn't a
right.
legal
I mean, it's
obligation.
something that you would want to try to alleviate the pain of another person, or
It's good to know it's
harm
not
to
the
their.
legal
Wait,
responsibility.
are both their downspouts pointing towards each other?
Yeah.
So it's like a water war going on. They're just
Yeah.
pushing water in each other's property.
There's a lot. So
Except for gravity.
right. So Scott's planning to have the downspouts on the west side of the house routed to the north, so that all that water can bypass that area. It also ponds, as you can sort of see there. It ponds in a few different locations. I mean, the driveway in any case, if it were to stay as it is, I mean, it needs some attention and additional gravel added to it and et cetera.
Okay, let's just refocus real quick. If we're gonna do the driveway thing, let's make that a separate COA at this
Okay.
point, and let's just
Sure.
focus on demolition of the garage.
That's fine.
Yep.
Yep.
Comments?
Does,
I had all the way around.
you been all the way around? Well, then I need a motion.
Second.
I have a question.
No.
The fact that it might be taller if they build, sort of ramp up that driveway and bring it forward, does that make it more prominent? Does that make it?
Won't that be part of
That's
the
the next
next COA?
Next COA.
Deal with that.
I guess it would.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion and a second for approval of demolition. So,
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Abstain.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Abstain.
Okay. Motion carries 5-0-2.
All right, let's move on to COA 20-7,
You may all be familiar with this property.
part 2.
This is a request for new construction of a garage, essentially on the same footprint as the old garage. You can see some of the materials there: fiber cement, board, lap siding, a solid fiberglass or steel door, shingle roof. So if you read the Elm Heights design guidelines, it says to avoid the choice of pre-manufactured sheds or service buildings. You can check that box. This is not that. It says new structures should be sited with regard for the historic orientation of the house and care for their impact on the site. You can check that box here as well. New garages and garage additions should be accessed by alleyways when available and appropriate and away from the primary facade whenever possible. I don't think that's applicable in this situation. So staff finds that the building orientation, the location, the materials, the style means maintaining a clipped front gable is sympathetic to the elements of the previous garage, and the new garage design is compatible with the primary structure of the lot. So for these reasons, staff finds that this design meets the design standards of the Elm Height guidelines and recommends approval.
Any additional information, Mary?
Well, I mean, the clipped gable is a defining characteristic of this house. It makes it, or a house of this garage, it makes it a little bit special. And that is something that the owner obviously wants to retain. It's something that's visible even from that distance from the street, from the sidewalk. And the also the offset garage door. They wanted to add a little bit of space, a bay to the side, to the west, just to have some trash can storage and some bike storage, but we've pushed that back. So you still kind of just read that very simple gable form as the primary elevation. So we're trying to kind of echo, I mean, obviously the house is a fairly straightforward house with the front-facing gable, and then this nice sort of repetition in the back is pretty much what we're echoing as well from the original design.
Jeff, questions?
Yeah, so now I have a question about the drive. If we're gonna raise the garage up a foot, how does that change, you know, how it reads from the front? I'm not sure it changes anything.
It moves in 5'6" too.
Well, yeah, it's I mean, the garage is,
It moves 1 foot.
I thought they were gonna
Moves 1
get
foot to
a
the
foot
east.
over there.
so they're getting the foot off the back.
But couldn't they get some back over
Oh, I
on
didn't,
that side
I
too?
didn't, it's actually on the next property.
That side meets code, yes.
So they,
Is
no,
that already-
they're
is that the
meeting code,
existing-
yeah.
Is that the existing location?
What was the question?
Slightly different.
It looks like it's, the existing location was, it was almost on the property line, now it's pushed 5.
No,
feet
so
in.
it's, if you look at the survey, which is in your packet, it's 4 feet off the west property line now. And so we decided to it's 4'4" off, the west property line, so we were gonna make it 5 feet off the property line, so we wouldn't have to do an additional variance.
So why on Google could you see the garage door and now it looks like you won't? I'm just,
You can still
it's
see.
only a
It's
foot
only
and a
8-inch
half.
difference. It's an 8-inch difference.
8-inch difference, okay.
Yeah,
I'll relax.
yeah. And, just for clarification, again, on the survey, the curb that is, on the west side of the drive that's in front of the neighbor's house is not on, this owner's property. So, we actually, I didn't draw that in there, but it's on beyond, it's on the other,
It shows up on Kevin's survey.
it does, right
Yeah,
on.
that it's off the
It's off the,
property.
it's off the property.
So how do you deal with that?
Well,
Because that's another review of the driveway.
yeah, it really does, because we haven't focused on it so much at this point.
I don't have any other questions.
It looks like you have enough room to get in and out. It's gonna be a little tight. No questions.
No questions.
I don't have any questions.
What's the current permeable surface area now before you trade out the garage and trade out the
For
drive?
the, I don't know, did you look at that? I did not analyze it. I don't know, I could get back to you. I don't know offhand.
Gravel's impervious.
No, it's not.
By the rule, I think it is.
It is.
Oddly,
It wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
it is now?
As far as I know, under current code, it always has been.
It's always blown my mind, but it's true.
Once it's packed down, it's considered impervious.
Interesting. Huh, I mean, in reality, I don't think it is.
No, I don't either. but
No, I think,
It is, so.
I think you're gonna, well, I'll get
Doesn't
to that in
matter.
comments. And is there a detail about what, if we're looking at the garage, this is the garage now, right? Is there a detail of what the foundation of that garage is? What happens on that little, you have a little line that's a little wider, what is that? At the bottom of the garage?
We will, it would be a CMU, foundation wall, which will probably bring up, 4 to 6 inches above the slab. And then the wood framed wall would sit on top of that.
So how much of that will be exposed? We'll get, okay, never mind. Then on the north face of the garage, there's a material that is differentiated. It's a vertical material. What is that?
Right, right. So that would be a type of vertical siding, maybe like a
Car siding?
a car siding that would be run vertically.
But, okay, so the rest of it is fiber cement board. Is
Right.
that also going to be fiber cement?
Potentially, yeah. Let's say it would be, most likely.
Okay, that's all I
It's,
got.
and that is also part of, there is that siding change on the original garage as well.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I was looking at right there, that picture.
Can you go back to the original garage for just a second? Yeah, what's up there now? I mean, is it going, it's going that?
It's a vertical, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
vertical, it's a narrow
So then
vertical
that's-
kind of
Yeah, but
siding.
it's really narrow. Okay, okay, so it's possible, so the new garage, I'll try to stick to the new garage and not the driveway.
Okay.
If you're gonna regrade, okay, let's preface this. Is First Street now higher than this driveway or lower than this driveway? Does it go up or does it go down? Which way does that drain? Towards the
Yeah, if you can
garage or
tell.
towards the street? Now,
It is.
Or is it humped in the
let me
middle?
see, Kevin. Yeah, we're about 6 inches in front of the, at the northwest corner of the driveway, call that elevation 100, and we are 0.58 in front of the garage. So it's just 6 inches.
Okay, so it's
A little
it's
bit
pretty
more.
flat.
It's pretty flat.
The problem with driveways, of course, is they build up. And almost all alleys and driveways were reverse crown. We've done it backwards now. Now we crown the road like this.
No, I think it
But
was
back then, they did this. And that's why all your water drained. If you go to any old alley, they were like this around here. They were called reverse crown. So that was actually meant to carry your water. That's why all your downspouts go over there. All the downspouts from mine go over there. But unfortunately, they don't do that anymore, and it slowly builds up, and then instead of water going here and into the crown, it goes here and then back towards your house. So if they're going to be regrading there, and that one house is so close, you might consider putting a little dip in the middle and reverse the crown, and then it'll pull all the water from the two houses. I'm going to comment on that. It's quite likely when you dig around in there, you might find an old limestone ribbon drive, a little underneath all that gravel. That's a possibility. You might, if you find it, you might want to restore it. You might not. I don't know. I don't like the door.
Oh, the door?
I don't like the door. It looks very
Modern.
It looks very 70s or something.
Okay.
So I know we're not gonna like.
I don't want to doodad it up.
I don't want to doodad it up,
It just
and
needs
we're
to be
not
kind
supposed
of
to
a
do
simple,
false, but that just screams ranch style to me or something.
We could consider
Do a
maybe
little
a panel, something with a little bit of panel detail.
Yeah,
or
maybe it doesn't
something.
bother anybody else, but to me, it's 70s ranch.
I can see that.
Okay, so my question was,
we would definitely be open to considering a little bit more elaboration on the door.
Yeah, so if you're going to regrade, what I'm saying in the question part is you might not have to go up too far with the thing if you've got a little drop there. Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thanks.
No questions have been covered already. Jeff, comment?
I think that the design is sensitive to what was there, and I appreciate that, and so I'm going to support it.
I think you could consider simple doors that might look like the old doors that open on hinges, and they're not that complicated. They're not that expensive, but they add a little a subtle detail that sort of makes that look, sort of doesn't call attention to it. Could look into it. Little glass details if they wanted light. That's all. I'll approve it as it is.
I agree with what Chris said, and I would approve it.
Doug?
Yeah, I think you've done a fine job. I agree though, when you pointed out the overhead door, that's the thing, I couldn't grasp what was bothering me. Because the garage doors for houses back then swung on hinges as opposed to what we do now. Yeah, that's right. And so I think something that reflects that, either a single door or double doors, I think would be right. What was the term you used? Didn't want to
Doodad it up.
Doodad it up. I like that.
Too
There you go. I like that. That's an architectural term.
Simple, that just references that.
Yeah, I know. I think you're spot on there. I like your rationale for not. I like the idea of maybe a hinge or something on it. Other than that, I think it's fine.
Couple of things. The roof, you might want to consider bringing the eave all the way over so above the man door.
Yeah.
Just so you don't get rained on. And it'll just simplify the roof a little bit. You might have to put a bracket in there to hold extra cantilevered rafters up. But you got a bunch of, they put brackets on the.
We did. This was the house that added brackets.
Yeah. I guess the only other comment I've got is I would propose we table this and talk about it part and parcel with the driveway. Because I think that they are interconnected, and I don't know that we should approve this or even continue talking about it without talking about the driveway at the same time.
Can I ask a question? Are we in comments or questions? would it be possible to approve it with, I mean, obviously without any changes to, contingent upon no changes to the driveway? As a condition of the approval? And then if the owner does in fact decide to make any changes to the driveway, then we would come back?
You've said that if you're gonna pave the driveway, it's gonna bring the garage up a foot. That is not, I mean, I would like to see how that is reflected in the drawings, because you have said that it's gonna affect the garage.
It would affect the elevation of the garage, but what I'm saying is that this approval of this design would be with this driveway. And that, and then COA would go away, and we'd come back if the project does include a new driveway as well, and you would look at it anew.
As a whole different thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can see.
yeah,
I can see that.
yeah, because it's very likely that they will decide not to move forward with the driveway.
I liked the reverse crown idea, actually. I was thinking that gravel's probably been built up over time anyway. So,
Yeah,
and getting
you
the
actually
drainage,
put-
and then you don't have to dig everything up, and you kind of slope it down the drive.
If you dig it up for concrete, put the concrete there, it's more likely the water actually will go in the neighbor's basement than the way it is now. Especially if they don't change their spouts, if that's the reason.
Right, no, when we were starting to talk to Kevin about it more, it's pretty involved, honestly, and I think it's most likely beyond the scope of investment and value, so.
Might scrape it and add a little gravel and that. would
And then,
help.
yeah.
Scrape that hump
Just
in the middle
rework-
out.
Rework it,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's why I would like to, I respectfully ask that this be approved as is now, and then we could come back if we wanna
Absolutely.
revisit it.
Yep,
Okay, I don't have any new comments. That was it.
no additional comments, so let's
I'll
make
make a motion.
a motion.
I suggest we approve with the condition that on staff approval, the garage door reflect a period look.
Okay.
And that would be staff approval of that garage door look. It might reflect two doors, but it's the overhead door.
Friendly amendment, just that if the driveway does change, that the COA is no longer valid.
I would
Yep.
like staff to review the vertical.
The
It's
vertical
on there,
siding.
it's on there
Above the
right
door.
now on the old one, so.
It's there to, I don't know what the new material is.
Me neither.
It's,
We haven't defined that exact material, so
That's
I
what
think
I'm
that's
saying.
fine,
Okay.
Staff,
yeah,
okay.
I think that's fine.
Good.
Second.
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
yes.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes,
Chris Sturbaugh.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much.
thank you,
Thank
thank you, Barry.
And I just want to
Thank you.
say that I so appreciate this process. I really, I see projects come through here, and I see you guys really giving such thoughtful input. And so, thank you for your service.
Yeah, you should apply.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your attitude.
All right,
Good luck.
we have demolition delay 20-4, staff review.
So this is a staff review, a contributing structure, 1000 South Washington. It's a partial demolition. What they are doing is building a small entry porch on the north elevation just to accommodate an existing door, and then they're going to extend a roof out. I believe extend this out this way a little bit, over the back mudroom, or maybe it's.
That's the back.
That's the back of the house.
Yeah, it's all in the back of the house. They're extending this out a little bit. So it's a partial demolition of a contributing structure in a single-family zone district. Staff has the authority to approve, and staff did to save time for this commission.
Terrific.
Approve that approval.
Second.
Third, okay. Let's move on to demo delay 19-25, 414 East 9th Street. And David's here this evening?
No.
Nope.
But I'll update everybody on this. But this is a familiar demo delay. We've pushed it back twice now. If we don't take action, if we don't place this under interim protection at the next meeting, then it will automatically be released. The next meeting's on February 27th. Just a quick reminder, this is in the Old Showers Furniture Factory study area. It was built circa 1927 by a local dentist named Fred Prow. It was part of the Prow Gardens redevelopment. We've consulted Bill Coulter, and we can find I've been to the History Center, the library, we can find no evidence proving that J.L. Nichols designed this house. It just can't substantiate that claim. So it can't be proven that locally significant architects designed this home. However, I did find some more historical information regarding Prow and Prow Gardens. I included it in the packet. From what I understand, Fred Prow bought up a bunch of property in a poor area of town and sought to redevelop it for wealthier clients, and did so. So that was the Prow Gardens redevelopment. Staff doesn't find that the Fred Prow nor Prow's addition has significant character, interest, or value as part of the development of the city, nor does it exemplify the city's cultural, political, economic, or historic heritage. And so I don't recommend individual designation of this property for historic or architectural reasons.
And I can attest he was at the History Center.
Thank you.
Have we talked to petitioner about any chance of him putting an addition on it and trying to retain the building, or did something?
I think we brought that up last meeting, definitely. And we talked about it when we were at the house, with the possibility, and he just does not seem interested.
Okay.
So the current owner his plan is to sell it to a developer who plans to tear it down?
No, he is the developer.
No, he is the developer.
So the current owner is the developer?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, there it is on the right.
Interesting.
As I recall, there are some really beautiful architectural details inside, shelving, little nooks and things.
I wouldn't call that, the shelving is a little crazy.
Yeah, there was some cabinetry in there, which might go to restore or something.
I think a lot of the architectural dealing on the exterior of the building, it's crazy. It's got a lot, if you've not been out to this house,
It's got a lot.
go look at the house.
Inside, you want?
We don't have any purview over
Right,
the
that's
inside.
true, I'm sorry.
The inside is solid, it's a solid
Yeah, it's
house,
solid.
Right.
but that doesn't, we don't look at that. They could do something with it, the rooms are small, from a development standpoint, it's a difficult thing.
Right.
We also don't look at that. But the exterior of the house, the level of architecture detail, the variety of architectural detail, the number of original windows, the condition of the foundation, well, not the condition of it, but it's a little gem. The roof is shot, the gutters are gone. You put a new roof on it, you put new gutters on it.
It's got a swimming pool.
It's not a standalone designation criteria, though. I just don't see that at all. Oh, this is fun. I found that one, if you've seen this. This is one of Prow's houses that he built, put in the newspaper, and it's still existing there.
Yeah.
Just a couple houses down from this one. So, and you can see the level of redevelopment between 1913 and 1927. He did most of his development in the early mid-20s. Everything I've circled here is all new from 1913 to 1927. And it was essentially between kind of Dunn and Grant, but all the way up to, I believe it was 11th Street, or maybe 10th Street. No, probably 11th Street. So kind of a narrow vertical channel of redevelopment, and that was Prow.
Paid $200,000. That's a lot of money.
The newspaper articles you got were great.
Yeah.
The headline here, Bucktown is doomed.
Bucktown.
Upon its ruins will rise the most desirable residential district in Bloomington.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
So that was right before the Black neighborhood moved west, that was Bugtown.
That was part of their getting pushed west, probably.
Yeah.
So I think Showers Company moved.
They did.
No, I did, but it all happened,
Yeah, all at the
IU
same
came
time.
in and
Yeah.
the dynamics are,
Prowl saw an opportunity, you know.
Right. Well, I guess Showers used to be not too far from here, and then
No.
it moved. A lot of development then.
I agree that this is a gem.
Yeah, it is. I would
I
love
would
to
hate
have
to
this.
lose it,
Mhm.
but we're gonna have a hard time defending it.
And we can figure a lot more of these are gonna come up in that area and some other ones.
If you want to propose a district with several houses and
But there's, I mean,
I mean, everything else around there has changed so much.
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really fit in anymore.
Mm-mm.
It's too bad we can't move it.
I know.
I asked.
I wish I could just pick that up and.
Yeah.
I
It's
didn't
a cute-
confirm this, but Matt Murphy said this owner is part of an LLC or several LLCs that
Right,
own
he is.
multiple properties in the city.
Yeah, he does.
I'm gonna expect a
After we
lot.
talked to him, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Mentioned 50.
so that house is original. Prowl house.
Yeah.
That's a Prowl house. That is there before Prowl and it's still
Right.
there. You can see that one
That one's actually kind of neat.
here.
It's a kind of
It's
Different.
demise of the African
Yeah,
American neighborhood.
yeah.
It's this one.
That's what I wonder. I mean, I know doing this as a standalone house, I mean, we had the one house on North Walnut Street near 11th that we made as its own district at one point. But when you read through these articles, you think this is another one of the, this is really one of the first subdivisions in Bloomington, and there are a few, I mean, these three structures right in a row are from, right in that time. But again, I think you're right, on its own, Jeff, it's tough to make an argument for this home. We can't tie it to an architect, Nichols or anything. So unless you had it in a district, there really isn't any other thing
Really, and I think, thinking about district, you're talking about investment properties. So you're talking about owners that own multiple properties.
That's right.
and,
You'd never
you're
get
gonna- You're gonna have some pushback,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm just
I've
trying to
never
think
seen
about the
so many
reality of it.
Little shed roofs on a house. It's really kind of fascinating. They're
Yeah.
here and there.
and steep shed
everywhere.
roofs at that.
Yeah, very steep,
Yeah.
flattened out. It's a very distinctive, interesting. I like it. I like the inside. I like the style. I like the ribbon, the tall narrow. Those are really pretty.
They spent some money on windows.
Yeah, somebody did some nice stuff
So
there, but.
if we allow the demolition, which we probably will, how could we make a recommendation? It'd be a non-binding recommendation, but it could be a statement from the commission that this building is sound and has character, and we would like to see it added on to and you may find that, I don't know, we can't go into.
We would so support an addition to this house. So.
We've
That's not-
communicated that to the owner
Oh.
for sure.
Yeah, and all we can do is say yes or no, right?
But we still
I
have a little
think-
time.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can put it off again, but
The 90
How's
days
it
is
gonna
up on
change?
March 3rd, I believe.
how's it gonna change in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
We
You
don't
don't have to
know.
release this today.
We don't know.
But it doesn't
Doesn't
what
change the
happens-
equation.
change anything if we wait 2 more weeks at
So what
this
happens
point.
if we don't have a quorum next meeting? And
Then it gets
Then it gets
released.
go right through.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we make a motion to make a recommendation that he consider keeping the property and
I think he
enhancing
was
it?
pretty
with a-
clear that that's not what he's gonna do.
So are you saying though, no action by us at all in letting it get released is a, well, it's a yes, but is that a statement? Is that the commission saying something? I don't know.
You know, what he told me about that though, Jeff, was I hadn't even thought of it. I didn't even know I would be allowed to do it. He didn't say, no way will I ever put an addition on. He just thought it could be, and we spun it a little bit. He could put a 2-story addition on that side, and
There's room for sure.
there's room for it.
I think that's a great idea, because then we at least go on the record as saying that that's our wish, and members of the commission are willing to help them figure that out. I think then if it has to go bye-bye, at least.
I move that we make a recommendation that the property owner consider an addition that it would contribute to the character of that neighborhood without having to demolish what we consider a significant structure, but not worthy of standing alone as a historic structure.
So how does this affect our demolition delay? You know, he's got
Yeah.
a permit to.
But we
to
don't.
dis-
Oh, it's
to
a
demolish.
secondary
Yeah.
note.
Has
We
no
just,
impact
like
on
we
that.
sent him a letter.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Okay.
it has nothing to do with releasing demo.
yeah.
Right, it's separate, it's just a
Just a
new,
completely separate thing.
Yeah.
All right.
we've just gone rogue and written him a letter.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Lee?
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Sure.
Susan Dyer, Jeff Golden,
I'll go along with sure.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Sure.
Chris Sturbaum.
Why not?
Motion carries 7-0.
So we still have the demolition delay.
Correct.
And we should send him our write-up on the property.
I'll send him a link to the video.
So should we,
There's a video.
Cat's video.
I think
Should
the other
we-
thing that we could do,
should we table it?
I think we should
Yes.
table it, but I think the other thing we could do is just, we could find some architect to draw him up like a little quick axonometric. Here's what you got, here's what you do, you know. Cause like, this is a standalone, single-family house with what? Two teeny tiny bedrooms upstairs and a
Yeah.
bathroom. And they want like 3 bedrooms with 3 bathrooms and blah, blah, blah,
There's
blah.
3 rooms upstairs.
Yeah, there's 3 rooms upstairs, but they're
They
saying
want
every
five
little
bedrooms.
college kid
Small,
wants
yeah.
their own bathroom.
They want 5 bedrooms.
They want
Yeah, it's
5.
because it's zoned, I'm sure it's zoned already.
Yeah, okay, so
It is.
it's 5. So you've got the bedroom, so you figure out a way to get them 5 bedrooms with 5 or 6 bathrooms.
And it would be even less expensive to do that than tear this down and build something brand new.
And there's that whole side of the yard that
Mhm.
there's room to do it.
So you put a bunch of bedrooms with bathrooms over on that side, you put an extra bathroom on that side that you bust in through the upstairs side wall. And then you have a bathroom, another bathroom that you come in off the bottom. So, I mean, you can do it,
And then some really good public space, shared space.
yeah.
Okay. Do we need a motion to table it?
I think the only way to raise it.
I don't think we do.
I
I
don't
mean, it's
think
just
we
like we
do,
didn't really
but-
talk about it.
What?
Typically, do we need a motion to,
To
if we just
table
don't take
this?
action on a demolition delay, can we just, do we need a motion to table it, or can we just not do anything?
No, you table them all the time, just by
Just-
acclamation.
Okay.
I mean, don't you?
Yes,
Yeah, we
do.
have. That's what we do.
Okay,
It's no
fine.
different
So-
than any other
I didn't,
motion.
I didn't think so, so.
So make a motion to table
Move the
it.
table to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay.
Doug Bruce,
Sure.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes!
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden, Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Okay.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Let's move on to Demolay 20-5, 222 East Smith Avenue. And is our petitioner here for
No.
that one?
No.
Okay.
So the City of Bloomington Utilities told the petitioner that they are going to have to demolish this house pretty much because of a major project that's they're going to be working on Jordan Culvert, and part of the culvert runs underneath the rear portion of this house. You can see it here. Here's the house. And they have to dig all of this up. So there's not really a lot of options. The owner does want to rebuild on this lot up here in the corner area. But
gonna
right
need
now,
a
we're just
variance
looking
for
at
that.
demolition of this structure.
They'll probably give it to him.
And you can see, I mean, look at its beside. If you go there in the whole area, there's no
Nothing.
historic context for this.
Well, the facing street is nice houses.
It's a survivor from an era that
Yeah, let's just do it.
is no longer here. Okay.
That one,
Okay,
yeah.
Is it okay if I just go ahead and do
Like
it?
that.
please.
Today regarding the property located at 222 East Smith Street. The Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. the HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
Second.
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Sam DeSoler,
Yes.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right.
There's a lovely pump station across the street from that.
All right, let's move on to demolition delay 20-6, 3415 East Adair Lane.
So this was added in the 2015 Shard update as contributing. I think it's in Hoosier Acres.
Yeah.
So the reason this is coming before you is because the amount of work is considered a substantial demolition. I mean, this house is undergoing major renovations, including a two-story addition and changing the roof from a gable to a hip. So the scope of work is substantial, and that triggers demolition delay on a contributing building. Staff did not find that this is architecturally notable or unique version of a split-level house, and certainly not an architectural style in danger of being lost in Bloomington, and would recommend release of demolition delay.
Is the petitioner with us? All right.
It's a brand new house, basically.
Any additional information?
Look like that.
Questions you might have, but nothing to add yet.
Any questions, Jeff? Chris? Lee? Doug?
Nope.
Sam?
No.
No,
Jen?
I'm good.
I'm good too. Any comments?
This is an ugly house.
Was, it's gonna be
Was.
better.
No,
No comments.
My brother was one exactly like that.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we've talked about this when Park Ridge East and a lot of those houses of that kind of same era got added as well, and we're gonna see more of these, and this is kind of more procedural than anything else, but I think I like what they're doing to it, so, no problem.
No comments.
No comments.
We're changing the fabric of the neighborhood, but I think it's a good change.
It's a pretty diverse neighborhood.
It is. A lot of change has been happening over there. Okay. So,
Today regarding the property located at, what's the number?
3415 East Adair.
3415 East Adair Lane. The Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed demolition or partial demolition. And after today's discussion, sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
Second.
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Sam DeSoler,
Yes.
Susan Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Golden,
Yes.
Lee Sandweiss,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Chris Sturbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Yeah, I had a comment. If the Hoosier Acres neighborhood was here saying these split levels define our neighborhood and we don't want to see those changed, we would consider it differently, I think.
Then they would, I mean, they may eventually come around to that point and decide that they want this to be a district. And then they'll
It'd be
do
a
that.
different world, but
Yeah.
yes, I'm justifying what we're
Yeah.
doing, but
Yeah.
saying the door's open in the future.
All right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's move on to new business. We've already done the courtesy review. So it's up to Connor to talk about
Just hang with me a little longer, guys. I'm just as tired as you are. We have the statewide historic preservation conference coming up in April. It's going to be in South Bend this year. Some of you attended the camp training last year. The camp training is available again this year if you'd like to go. I have a scholarship available, so whether that's taking 3 or 4 commissioners to the camp training for a day, or whether that's one of you coming with me to this conference for 2 days and attending some of those workshops and sessions, the opportunity is available for you. I think I put the conference itinerary in there so you could see the kind of sessions they're having, the topics they're talking about. This is a wonderful chance to talk preservation with people, with other communities, network a little bit. I think I found last year's conference to be wonderful, and I have no doubt that this year's will be just as good, if not better. So I wanted to avail you of that information, and you need to let me know before March 1st if you would like essentially to go for free. So
So we can all go, or 3 of us can go.
well, I think they let me split the camp session up because camp was only, I believe, $25 or $30 a person, and they said, well, rather than doing a full conference scholarship, we'll just give you camp for your commission.
Okay.
Is a deal I made with them last year.
Okay.
So we could certainly do something like that again this year if I have enough of you interested in attending the camp session, and I'd be happy to go to that as well. So, like I said, just think about it. Let me know if you want to go up to South Bend for a day or 2 and enjoy this because it's an awesome opportunity.
What's the date again?
April.
I don't remember. Is it in the packet?
I don't remember either.
That's the camp.
The camp's on a Tuesday. I'm looking at it now. Give me 1 second.
14th is a Tuesday.
Yep. So it's the 14th of April is the camp, and then the regular conference is the 15th and 16th.
There's a great English pub in downtown. South Bend.
I'm going now.
Don't
Yeah. Let's
see how I know, 'cause it is awesome.
It's Mayor Pete's hometown.
Can we camp there?
Can we camp at the camp? I don't know. So Restaurant Row design guidelines discussion. Be happy to table that to the next meeting since this was so long, or we can talk about it now. I don't know if anyone had comments or feedbacks. It's up to you guys.
Why don't we table it to next meeting?
Because this.
Yeah, already.
You mentioned that it would be helpful maybe to get comments in writing. I have a bunch of comments in writing, but I was going to talk about them here. But maybe if anybody does have comments, encouraging to send them to you, so maybe you can consolidate whatever comments there are.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yes.
I have new business.
New business.
So I would like to make a motion for a grant to investigate the core building and see if it's worthy of National Register designation. And that's something that this body can do, and it's a $400 grant or something like that. But it would help leverage the core building and give it a different future with those tax credits.
Wait, what grant are you referring to?
It's just a grant that the commission gives for design and for this kind of.
So we can use it to pay for someone to investigate a building?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, we would pay for them to do the National Register designation. It's up to the
Everybody's
state.
left us.
It's up to.
Well, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look into that, Chris.
Well, I'm making a motion because I think we got to get it. We should vote on it. I meant to do this last meeting and time's ticking away, so
Okay.
there's a precedent.
So you're making a motion
That we
secure
grant-
a grant from the Historic Preservation Commission for the study of the core building.
To make a National Register designation recommendation, National Register recommendation to the proper authorities.
We need a second.
And my memory is it's been a $400 grant in the past.
Yeah, that's for design work for the historic facade.
Facade grants, yeah, I know that.
I don't know. I'll see if I can use that money for this. But in the past, it's been.
We've done it before.
Okay.
Do you remember what building we did it for?
Duncanwood.
Yeah.
You want to? You don't want to table that until we figure out if we can actually do it.
I believe we can do it. I think we
Okay.
should express our opinion of that we should do it.
So we do have to put out a, RFP and everything like that, and try and.
For $400.
What's that?
You don't have to, I don't think you have to put an RFP out for $400, but I think what I would do, depending on what happens, is talk to Duncan first, because I think you're right. I think Duncan would remember how we did it, but it wasn't, for that kind of money, you didn't have to do anything. You could.
Well, there's a little uncertainty, so if we want to wait till next meeting, we can.
Find out if we can do it, talk to Duncan.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
I think we'll all feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it appears that we are done.
Because I was gonna use the $400 to see if we could get the steam whistle.
They know where it is. They've already.
I love that.
Do we have any public comments?
Do we have any public?
Any announcements? Any commission comments? All right, we're
I
done.
had fun with the kiln thing. That was really fun.
Yeah, that was good.